Standing in the middle of my sister Emma's graduation party, surrounded by family, professors, and her classmates, my father raised his champagne glass and announced loudly, "This is my youngest daughter, Rachel. Unfortunately, we couldn't do much for her. She's what you might call a walking failure." Everyone laughed. My mother beamed proudly at him. My grandmother nodded knowingly. Emma's friends laughed even harder. I felt every eye on me, waiting for me to crumble, to cry, to apologize for existing. Instead, I smiled, raised my own glass, and said clearly, "Perfect. This will be the last time any of you see me." Then I turned and walked out. The party fell into absolute silence. The evening had started so differently. I'd arrived at my parents' house in suburban Boston around 6 p.m., carrying a bouquet of white roses I'd spent half my paycheck on. They were Emma's favorites, and I wanted to celebrate her properly. She'd just graduated summa cum laude from Harvard Law School, and I was genuinely proud of her. I wore my best dress, a black one I'd found at a thrift store, and tailored myself. I was excited, hopeful even, because I thought tonight might finally be my chance to share some good news of my own. The house was already packed when I arrived. Emma's law school classmates mingled with our extended family, everyone dressed in business attire, drinks in hand, laughter filling every corner. My mother took the flowers from me without even looking, setting them aside with the other gifts without a word. My father was already deep in conversation with Emma's dean, gesturing animatedly about her future prospects. Nobody asked how I was. Nobody asked about my week. I was used to it by now, but it still stung. What they didn't know, what nobody in that room understood, was the history that had brought me to this moment. 4 years ago, when I was 19, I'd been a sophomore at Boston University studying journalism. I loved it. Every assignment, every late night at the campus newspaper, every interview felt like I was building towards something real. But then my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. It happened suddenly, aggressively, on a Thursday afternoon during what was supposed to be a routine checkup. Double mastectomy, months of chemotherapy, and during those months, our family restaurant nearly collapsed. My parents had owned Sophia's Kitchen, a small Greek restaurant in Cambridge, for 15 years. It was their life's work. But with Mom's treatment, and Dad trying to manage her care while running the business alone, everything started falling apart. Staff quit, orders were missed, customers complained, bills piled up. Emma was in her first year at Harvard Law. She had scholarships, internships lined up, her whole golden future stretched out before her. My parents sat me down in the hospital waiting room and asked if I could take a semester off to help with the restaurant. Just 1 semester, they promised. Just until Mom was better, and they could hire proper help. I said yes. Of course I said yes. She was my mother. 1 semester became 2. Then I couldn't afford to go back, because every dollar I earned went to Mom's medical bills and keeping the restaurant afloat. I worked as a waitress during the day, bartender at night, and helped with bookkeeping on weekends. I slept 4 hours a night. I watched Emma excel at Harvard while I served coffee to drunk college students at 2 a.m. My parents promised they'd help me return to school once things stabilized. They promised they hadn't forgotten about me. But Mom recovered. Emma continued to shine. And somehow my sacrifice was gradually forgotten. It became reframed as my failure. For the past 2 years, I'd been working as a freelance writer from my tiny studio apartment, building my portfolio, taking on clients wherever I could find them. I wrote constantly, taught myself social media marketing, pushed myself to get better. But my family dismissed it. My mother called it playing on the computer. My father asked when I was going to get a real job. Emma barely acknowledged what I did at all. Tonight, before his cruel announcement, I'd been standing near the kitchen trying to stay out of the way when I overheard my mother talking to a group of Emma's law school friends' parents. "We're so blessed," she was saying, her voice bright with pride. "Emma has exceeded every expectation. We have 1 successful child. At least one of our daughters made something of herself." One of the women glanced at me, clearly uncomfortable. My mother didn't notice or didn't care. My father, joining the conversation, added with a shake of his head, "Rachel just never had the same drive. You know how it is. Some kids are natural achievers, and some need more pushing. We tried our best, but you can only do so much." The words felt like a physical blow. I gripped my wine glass tighter, my knuckles white, but I stayed quiet. I told myself I'd stay for Emma's sake. Be supportive. Be the bigger person. Then came the moment. My father called for everyone's attention. The room quieted. He stood in the center of the living room, handsome in his expensive suit, every inch the proud patriarch. He talked about Emma's achievements, her law review honors, her job offer at a prestigious firm, his gratitude for family support. Then, his eyes landed on me. "And I should introduce my younger daughter for those who don't know her," he said, his tone suddenly shifting to something almost mocking. "This is Rachel. Unfortunately, we couldn't do much for her. She's what you might call a walking failure." The room erupted in laughter. Not polite chuckles, but real laughter, like he'd told a genuinely funny joke. My parents were laughing. My grandmother was laughing. Emma's law school friends were laughing. Her professors were laughing. I felt every eye on me, watching to see how I'd react, waiting for me to shrink or cry or apologize for existing. My hands shook. My throat tightened. But something in me hardened instead of breaking. I smiled. I lifted my glass. And I spoke clearly, calmly, so everyone could hear. "Perfect. This will be the last time any of you see me." Then I turned and walked toward the door. The laughter died instantly. The silence that replaced it was thick and shocked. I heard my mother gasp. I heard someone whisper, "Oh my God." I didn't look back. I walked through the front door, across the driveway to my beat-up Honda Civic. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. The moment I pulled out of the driveway, my phone started buzzing violently. Text from Mom. "How dare you embarrass us like that? Get back here right now." Text from Mom. "This is completely unacceptable behavior." Text from Emma. "It was just a joke, Rach. Stop being so dramatic. You're ruining my celebration." Text from Dad. "Your mother is very upset. You owe everyone an apology." I drove 20 minutes to my apartment. Vision blurred with tears, phone buzzing continuously in the passenger seat. When I finally parked, I sat in the car and cried harder than I had in years. Not just because of what my father said, but because of what it revealed. They genuinely saw me as worthless. After everything I'd sacrificed for this family, they saw me as a burden and a failure. I went inside, climbed the stairs to my second-floor studio, and collapsed on my bed. I blocked all their numbers, every single one. Then I cried, until I had no tears left, grieving the family I thought I had, mourning the people I wished they could be. Around midnight, emotionally exhausted, I noticed my laptop pinging with a new email notification. I almost didn't check it. I was done with my family, done with their demands. But something made me look. The email was from someone named David Chen, senior editor at BuzzFeed. The subject line read, "Freelance opportunity, urgent response needed. Hi, Rachel. I've been trying to reach you for the past 3 days. I saw your article about small business struggles during COVID on Medium. Your writing is exceptional, authentic, compelling, exactly what we're looking for. I'd like to offer you a staff writer position at BuzzFeed News. The salary is $65,000 a year, plus full benefits. I sent you several messages through the platform. The position has a 48-hour acceptance deadline because we need someone to start immediately. I know this is sudden, but I really hope you'll consider it." I couldn't breathe. I couldn't process what I was reading. I checked my Medium account with shaking hands. There they were. 3 messages from BuzzFeed, a formal offer letter, benefits package, everything official and real. I pulled up the article he'd mentioned. It was a piece I'd written 6 months ago about our family restaurant's struggle during the pandemic, how small businesses were falling through the cracks of government aid programs. I'd spent weeks researching, interviewing other restaurant owners, crafting it perfectly. My family had mocked me for wasting time on blog posts while I was working on it. This was real. This was happening. A major digital media company wanted me. They'd found my work, recognized my talent, when my own family couldn't see past their own prejudices. I looked around my small apartment at the life I'd built here despite everything, and I realized something profound. I had nothing keeping me in Boston. No friends nearby anymore because I'd been too busy working to maintain relationships. No family who valued me. Nothing but fear of the unknown. and I was done being afraid. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my laptop reading and rereading the offer from BuzzFeed, trying to convince myself it was real. $65,000 a year. In Boston, working my freelance jobs and restaurant shifts, I'd made maybe $28,000 last year. This was more than double. This was a life. By dawn, I'd made my decision. I opened my email and typed a response to David Chen. Dear David, I'm honored and thrilled to accept your offer. Thank you for believing in my work. I'm ready to start as soon as possible. Best regards, Rachel. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Within an hour, while I was making coffee with shaking hands, David responded. He was clearly delighted. He sent onboarding paperwork, a start date 2 weeks away, and contact information for a relocation specialist who could help me find an apartment in New York. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of logistics and determination. I gave notice on my apartment, my landlord surprisingly understanding when I explained the situation. I packed everything I owned into boxes, which wasn't much. Clothes, books, my computer equipment, kitchen basics. My whole life fit into my small car with room to spare. Not once did my family call. They were clearly waiting for me to apologize, to come crawling back, admitting I'd overreacted. I didn't reach out either. Every day that passed in silence made me more certain I was making the right choice. Moving day arrived on a gray Saturday morning. I loaded the last box into my car, took one final look at the apartment where I'd spent 2 years rebuilding myself from nothing, and drove away. I didn't feel sad. I felt free. New York was overwhelming in the best possible way. The relocation specialist had helped me find a tiny studio apartment in Queens, affordable on my new salary, a 45-minute subway commute to BuzzFeed's office in Midtown Manhattan. It was smaller than my Boston place, but the windows faced east, and morning light flooded in, and somehow that felt like a metaphor for everything. My first day at BuzzFeed, I was terrified. The office occupied 2 floors of a modern building near Times Square. Everything was open, collaborative, buzzing with creative energy. People my age and older moved through the space with purpose and coffee cups, talking about stories and sources and deadlines. David met me in the lobby, warm and welcoming, exactly as he'd sounded in his emails. He was maybe 35 with kind eyes and a casual style, jeans and a button-down that seemed to be the office uniform. Rachel, welcome. We're so excited you're here. He showed me around, introducing me to what felt like 100 people whose names I immediately forgot. But 3 names stuck. Maya, sharp and funny. A senior writer with quick wit and an easy laugh. James, an investigative reporter, intense but encouraging, who looked me in the eye when we shook hands and said, David doesn't hire people he doesn't believe in. You must be talented. And Sarah, another staff writer, ambitious but fair, who sized me up with a nod and said, looking forward to reading your work. My desk was in an open workspace with the rest of the editorial team. David gave me my first assignment, a feature story about gig workers struggling with healthcare costs. Nothing huge, but a real story with real people and a real deadline. I worked harder than I'd ever worked in my life. I stayed late, came in early, pushed every story through multiple drafts. Maya started joining me for lunch, making me laugh with stories about interview disasters and source mishaps. James stopped by my desk regularly, offering feedback that was tough, but always made my work stronger. Even Sarah, initially distant, began nodding approvingly at my story pitches. The first 3 months flew by in a haze of learning and growth. I was exhausted but exhilarated. Every day I proved to myself that I belonged here, that I was good at this, that David had been right to hire me. I didn't think about my family much. When I did, it was with a dull ache that I pushed away. I'd made my choice. They'd made theirs. I was moving forward. Then, 4 months into my new job, I got a LinkedIn message from someone named Amanda Rodriguez. The message was brief. Hi, Rachel. I work at the law firm where your sister Emma started. I have something important you need to know. Can we meet for coffee? I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to keep Emma and everything connected to her in the past where it belonged. But curiosity won out. We met on a Saturday afternoon at a coffee shop in Brooklyn, halfway between our apartments. Amanda was around 30, dressed casually with long dark hair and a serious expression. She got straight to the point. "I'm going to be blunt," she said, stirring her latte. "Emma has been taking credit for your work." My stomach dropped. What? About a year ago, Emma submitted a legal brief that caught everyone's attention. Brilliant research, compelling arguments, innovative approach to a complex case. She got praised by partners, fast-tracked for better assignments. It was a major factor in her getting the associate position she wanted. Amanda pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots. "But I recognized the writing style. I'd read your articles online. The structure, the argumentation, even some of the specific phrases. It was clearly your work adapted into legal format." I felt sick. "How do you know for sure?" "I checked. Emma had asked you to help her with research for a class project around that time, right? She told me herself, bragging about how she got her sister to do free research for her." I remembered. Emma had called me, unusually friendly, saying she had an important case study for school and needed help with background research. Could I help? "It would take me just a few hours," she'd said. It was a chance to do something nice for my sister, to maybe rebuild our relationship. So I'd spent an entire weekend researching, writing, crafting a comprehensive analysis. She'd told me it was just for practice. She told the partners she'd done all the research and analysis herself, Amanda continued. She got a commendation for initiative and creativity. It was part of her first-year review package. She showed me more evidence. Emails, file timestamps, everything proving that Emma had taken my work and claimed it as her own. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Amanda's expression hardened. "Because Emma is entitled and takes credit for other people's work regularly. I'm tired of it. And because what she did to you was theft. You deserve to know." We met twice more over the next 2 weeks. Amanda provided me with copies of everything, detailed evidence. She encouraged me to use it however I wanted, whether that meant confronting Emma, reporting her to the Bar Association, or just keeping it for my own peace of mind. I struggled with what to do. I was angry, furious even, but I also felt conflicted about exposing family, about causing problems. Amanda reminded me that Emma had caused the problems, not me. Meanwhile, my career continued to flourish. I completed my first major investigation at BuzzFeed, an exposé on wage theft in the gig economy. David praised my work in front of the entire editorial team during our weekly meeting. "This is exactly the kind of impactful journalism that defines what we do here," he said, pulling my article up on the conference room screen. "Rachel, you've exceeded every expectation. Outstanding work." I got assigned to bigger stories. My confidence grew. I made real friends. Maya invited me to team happy hours and weekend brunches. James became a mentor, teaching me how to cultivate sources, how to verify information, how to navigate newsroom politics. For the first time in my adult life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. The holidays approached, Thanksgiving, then Christmas. I half expected my family to reach out, maybe softened by time and tradition. Nothing came. Complete silence. I spent Thanksgiving with Maya and her partner, a warm, loud dinner in their Brooklyn apartment filled with chosen family and laughter. It was lonely in some ways, but also freeing. I didn't have to perform or shrink myself or accept cruelty disguised as jokes. I realized I'd been waiting for an apology that would never come. My family didn't think they'd done anything wrong. To them, I was the one who'd overreacted, who'd been too sensitive, who'd abandoned them over nothing. 2 days before Christmas, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I'd learned my lesson about ignoring unknown calls, so I answered. "Rachel?" My mother's voice. My heart clenched. "Mom." "Oh, thank goodness. I've been trying to reach you. You blocked our numbers." Her tone was accusatory, not apologetic. "I needed space," I said carefully. "Well, I'm calling because Emma's getting married. We're throwing an engagement party in January, and we need everyone to contribute financially. It's going to be a big celebration, and we're asking all family members to pitch in $500 each." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. No, how are you? No, we miss you. No acknowledgement of what had happened. Just a request for money. "We know you left in a huff," my mother continued. "But family is family, and we need everyone to help out. This is important." Something inside me turned to ice. "I'm not sending money." Excuse me? I said no. I'm not contributing to a party for a family that treated me the way you all did. Rachel, don't be ridiculous. That was months ago. Your father barely even remembers what he said. You're holding a grudge over a silly joke. It wasn't a joke, Mom. And I'm done pretending it was. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt powerful. I'd stood my ground. That evening, still processing the conversation, I received an unexpected email. It was from a company called Vox Media, a major digital media corporation. They were requesting proposals from several writers for a new investigative series on economic inequality. The project was worth a significant freelance fee and could lead to a full-time position as a senior correspondent. David called an emergency meeting. "This is huge," he said, his excitement barely contained. "Vox is one of the biggest names in digital journalism. If you land this, it changes everything for your career." He looked directly at me. "Rachel, I want you to pitch for this. The editor specifically mentioned your wage theft investigation. They want someone with your style and approach. This is your moment." The pitch meeting was scheduled for mid-January. I looked at the date David circled on the calendar and my stomach twisted. It was the same day as Emma's engagement party. The exact same day. And the meeting was in Boston, just miles from my family's home. I'd be in their city, closer than I'd been in months, and they'd have no idea I was there. They'd never know about my success, my opportunity, my life. Something about that felt exactly right. I threw myself into preparing the Vox pitch with an intensity that surprised even me. This wasn't just about landing a client. This was about proving once and for all that I was exactly who I'd always known I could be. The team worked around the clock. Maya and I brainstormed angles late into the night, fueled by coffee and takeout. James pushed me to think bigger, bolder, to take journalistic risks that terrified and excited me. Even Sarah, usually focused on her own stories, stayed late to offer feedback on my pitch deck. Vox Media was known for their cutting-edge journalism, but they needed fresh voices, new perspectives on old problems. They wanted someone who could humanize complex economic issues without talking down to readers. I developed a comprehensive series proposal combining data-driven reporting with personal storytelling. The concept was ambitious but achievable, serious but not academic. David reviewed my work and actually stood up from his chair. "This is it," he said quietly. "This is exactly what they need. Rachel, you're going to blow them away." 1 week before the pitch, my phone rang. Different number again. I'd stopped blocking them, figuring if my family wanted to reach me badly enough, they'd find a way. This time it was my father. His voice was stern, cold. "Your mother told me you refused to contribute to the engagement party. No greeting. No. How are you? Just straight to accusation." "That's right," I said calmly. "This is extremely selfish, Rachel. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? By abandoning your family when we need you?" The irony was so thick I almost laughed. "After everything you've done for me, Dad. I dropped out of college to save the restaurant. I worked 3 jobs to pay Mom's medical bills. I gave up my education so Emma could finish hers. What exactly have you done for me lately?" Silence on the other end. He wasn't used to me pushing back. "That was your choice," he finally said, his voice hard. "Nobody forced you to do any of that." "And leaving was my choice too," I replied. My voice was steady, strong. "Goodbye, Dad." I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but I felt proud. I'd stood up for myself. I'd told the truth. Over the next few days, Emma started texting from a new number. "Mom and Dad are really hurt. You need to apologize." Then, "You're tearing this family apart. And I'm stressed because of you, and stress isn't good for wedding planning." I didn't respond to any of them. Each message made me more certain I was doing the right thing. Finally, Emma sent, "Fine, don't come to the party, but don't ever expect to be part of this family again." I blocked that number too. If that was their idea of family, I wanted no part of it. The day of the Vox pitch arrived. I woke up at 5 a.m. in my Queens apartment, too nervous to sleep. I put on my best suit, a navy blue ensemble I'd bought specifically for this presentation. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw someone I barely recognized. Confident, professional, successful. David and I drove to Boston together with Maya and James. The entire drive they hyped me up, reminding me how good my work was, how prepared I was. David kept saying, "Just be yourself. Show them what I already know, that you're brilliant." Vox's Boston office was a sleek building in the Back Bay, all modern lines and impressive views. We were ushered into a conference room on the 15th floor. 5 editors sat across from us, including their editor-in-chief and their head of investigations. I presented for 2 hours. I walked them through the entire series proposal, explained my reporting methodology, showed mock-ups of how the stories would look across platforms. I answered their questions thoughtfully, confidently. I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. When I finished, the editor-in-chief leaned back in her chair and smiled. That was exceptional. Truly innovative approach to these issues. The head of investigations nodded. "We'll be in touch by end of week, but I'll tell you now, this is exactly the direction we've been hoping someone would take us." We shook hands. David was beaming. Maya squeezed my shoulder. James whispered, "You crushed it." We left the building riding high on adrenaline and hope. I felt invincible. Then in the lobby, I literally bumped into someone. "Oh, I'm so sorry," I said automatically, stepping back. The person looked up. Our eyes met. It was my cousin Lisa. Her face went completely white. "Rachel?" She was dressed professionally, clutching a portfolio folder, clearly there for a job interview. She looked between me and my colleagues, taking in our confident postures, our success. "What are you doing here?" Lisa stammered. Before I could answer, one of the Vox editors who'd been in our pitch meeting walked past. She recognized me and stopped. "Brilliant work today, Rachel," she said warmly. "We'll have a decision for you by Friday, but I want you to know your proposal is exactly what we needed. Outstanding presentation." She smiled and walked away. Lisa's jaw actually dropped. She stared at me, then at the executive's retreating figure, then back at me. I felt a surge of satisfaction I couldn't quite suppress. "Good luck with your interview, Lisa," I said pleasantly. Then I walked out, leaving her stunned in the lobby. The drive back to New York was euphoric. My team couldn't stop celebrating, already talking about how we'd execute the series when, not if, we won the contract. David kept glancing at me with this proud, almost paternal expression. "You know this changes everything for you, right?" he said. "Win or lose, you just proved you can handle major clients. You're ready for the next level." Friday came. David got the call at 3 p.m. The entire newsroom seemed to hold its breath as he took the meeting in his glass-walled office. We could see him nodding, smiling, then actually pumping his fist in the air. He came out and announced, "We got it. Vox chose Rachel's proposal." The office erupted. People cheered, hugged, high-fived. Maya picked me up and spun me around. James pulled me aside and said, "You did this. This was all you." That evening, David called me into his office. "Sit down, Rachel." My heart raced. Was something wrong? "I'm promoting you to senior staff writer," he said simply. "Effective immediately. Your salary is now $85,000. You're the youngest person to hold that title in BuzzFeed's history. You've earned it." I couldn't speak. I just sat there, overwhelmed, as he explained the new responsibilities and opportunities. At 25 years old, I'd gone from waiting tables in Boston to senior staff writer at a major media company in less than a year. That night, I called Amanda to thank her for the evidence about Emma. "I've been holding on to it," I told her, "but I haven't decided what to do with it." "You don't need revenge," Amanda said wisely. "You're already winning. You're building something real. That's better than any confrontation." She was right. I felt like I'd moved beyond needing to prove anything to my family. My life was full and successful without them. 2 weeks later, I was working late at the office, developing sources for the Vox series. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered absently, focused on my notes. "Rachel?" A woman's voice, cold and sharp. "Yes? This is Jennifer, Emma's maid of honor. I don't know what you think you're doing, but Lisa told the whole family she saw you in Boston pretending to be some big-shot journalist, claiming you led some important meeting." My stomach tightened. I wasn't pretending. "I did lead a meeting. Emma looked into it. There's no record of you working at any legitimate publication. We know you're lying about having a fancy job to make yourself look good. It's pathetic, Rachel. You clearly need professional help. Making up stories for attention is a sign of serious issues. I realized what had happened. Emma had probably searched for my name at the wrong publication or done a sloppy internet search. She'd found nothing and assumed I was lying, rather than considering she'd looked in the wrong place. I could correct her right now. I could tell her the name of my publication, prove everything. But suddenly, I saw a different opportunity. I let them believe I was lying. Think whatever you want, Jennifer, I said calmly. I really don't care. I hung up. Over the next month, I watched from a distance as my family spread rumors about me. Lisa posted vague social media updates about family members who fabricate entire lives for attention and the importance of getting help for people who'd lost touch with reality. My mother apparently told relatives at church that I was going through something difficult, and they were very worried about me. My coworkers noticed I seemed distracted. Maya asked if I was okay. I explained the situation briefly, not wanting to dump all my family drama on them. They were outraged on my behalf. When are you going to tell them the truth? Maya demanded. James, more measured, asked, What are you waiting for? I thought about it. The right moment, when it will hurt the most. 3 months passed. Spring turned to summer. My work on the Vox series was exceeding everyone's expectations. The first article launched in June to industry-wide acclaim. Social media engagement was through the roof. Other publications wrote follow-up pieces. Policy experts cited my reporting in congressional hearings. And my name was on everything. Rachel Martinez, senior staff writer, BuzzFeed News. The series won a Digital Journalism Award in July. I stood on stage at the ceremony in a hotel ballroom in Washington, D.C., accepting the trophy alongside David and the team. Trade publications ran photos. Journalism blogs wrote features. One magazine, Columbia Journalism Review, reached out to interview me for their Rising Stars in Digital Media issue. The article went live online on a Wednesday morning. It included my full name, my photo, my whole story about starting as a freelancer and working my way up, and quotes from David about my talent and work ethic. That morning, I was in the office kitchen making coffee when my phone rang. My mother's number, a new one I hadn't blocked yet. I answered. Hello, Rachel. Her voice was strange, tight. Mom, I need you to explain something to me. Someone at the restaurant just showed me an article about you, about some journalism award and some job in New York. I said nothing. Is this real? She demanded. Do you actually work at this publication? Is this whole story true? Yes, Mom. It's all true. It's been true for over a year. Silence. Then quietly, why didn't you tell us? I almost laughed. When would I have told you? When you called to ask for money? When Emma accused me of lying? When Dad said I was selfish? When would have been the right time? People are asking questions, she said, her voice breaking slightly. They want to know why you're not in our lives. They're asking if we had a falling out. It's embarrassing. Please, she continued. We're having the wedding next month. Just come. We can put all this behind us. There it was. Not an apology, not acknowledgement of what they'd done. Just concern about appearances and a desire to sweep everything under the rug. People are asking questions, I repeated slowly. You're embarrassed. That's what you're worried about. Rachel, please. I'll think about it, I said, and hung up. But I'd already made my decision. I was going to that wedding, but not to make peace. I was going to make sure they finally understood exactly what they'd lost. Over the next 2 weeks, I received messages from various family members, each one more surreal than the last. My father texted, We're proud of what you've accomplished. Come celebrate with us. As if he hadn't called me a walking failure just months ago. Emma texted, Hey sis, saw your article. That's really impressive. Let's catch up soon. Casual and friendly, like she hadn't stolen my work and mocked me in front of 100 people. My grandmother called and left a voicemail. Sweetheart, we always knew you'd do well eventually. Can't wait to see you at Emma's wedding. It'll be just like old times. Every single message rewrote history, erased the cruelty, pretended the humiliation had never happened. They wanted access to my success now, wanted to bask in reflected glory. wanted to tell their friends about their daughter, sister, granddaughter who worked in journalism in New York City. I showed the messages to James during lunch one day. He read them with increasing fury, his normally composed expression darkening. "They want to use you," he said bluntly. "They didn't value you when they thought you were worthless. Now they want to claim you because you're successful. Don't let them." "I'm going to the wedding," I said. He looked surprised. "Why?" "Because they need to hear the truth. They need to understand what they did. And they need to hear it in front of everyone, the same way they humiliated me." James studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, but be careful. Make sure you're doing this for the right reasons." I thought about his warning. Was this revenge? Maybe partly. But it was also closure. It was drawing a line. It was refusing to let them rewrite our history. I RSVP'd yes to the wedding. My mother called immediately, her voice flooded with relief. "Oh, Rachel, thank you. Everyone will be so happy to see you. This means so much to the family." "I'll be there," I said simply. The wedding was scheduled for a Saturday evening in late August at a country club outside Boston. I took the day off work. I drove from New York to Massachusetts, a road I'd driven 1,000 times before, but which now felt strange and distant. I wore an elegant emerald dress, subtle jewelry, carried myself with the confidence I'd earned over the past year. I arrived exactly on time. The country club was beautiful, all manicured lawns and tasteful decorations. Cars lined the circular drive. I could hear music and voices from the reception area. I walked up to the entrance and gave my name to the hostess. She smiled and directed me inside. The reception was in full swing. My extended family, Emma's law school friends, colleagues, neighbors. Everyone turned when I entered, recognition and curiosity on their faces. Word had clearly spread about my career. I was no longer the family disappointment. I was the family curiosity. My mother approached first, pulling me into a tight hug. I didn't return it. "Rachel, thank you for coming. Please, let's not mention any unpleasantness today. It's Emma's day." I nodded noncommittally and walked further inside. My father approached, hand extended for a formal handshake. "Good to see you, sweetheart." Emma came over in her wedding dress, radiant and happy. "Rachel, I'm so glad you could make it. This means everything to me." She acted like nothing had ever happened, like her theft of my work was ancient history, forgotten, irrelevant. People approached me throughout the evening. "We heard about your journalism award. You must be so successful. Emma was just telling us how proud the family is." Each comment made my jaw tighter. I smiled politely, gave vague answers, watched my family construct a new narrative in real time. Emma kept steering conversations, inserting herself into stories about my career, hinting at how supportive she'd always been. My father boasted to his golf buddies about having 2 successful daughters. My mother told her book club friends how she'd always encouraged Rachel's writing. After the dinner, Emma stood up to give a speech. The reception hall quieted. She had a microphone, standing elegant in her white dress, the picture of accomplished success. "I just want to thank everyone for being here to celebrate with us," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "This past year has been incredible. Getting married, starting my career, having my family around me." She looked directly at me. "I'm especially grateful my sister could be here tonight. We've always been close, and family means everything to me." The lie was too blatant, too much. I felt something inside me snap. I stood up. "Actually," I said, my voice clear and steady, "I'd like to say a few words." My mother's face went pale. My father looked alarmed, but everyone else nodded encouragingly, assuming I was going to give some sweet, sisterly toast. I walked to where Emma stood, taking the microphone from her surprised hands. The reception hall was completely silent. 2 years ago, I began, I came to a party at my parents' house, Emma's graduation party, and in front of everyone gathered here, my father introduced me like this. I paused, looking at each family member. He said, "This is my youngest daughter, Rachel. Unfortunately, we couldn't do much for her. She's what you might call a walking failure." And everyone laughed. The reception hall had gone completely silent. Guests looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. Emma's face was turning red. "I walked out that night," I continued. I said it was the last time any of you would see me, and I meant it. For 18 months, none of you called to apologize. None of you checked if I was okay. None of you acknowledged what happened. My mother started to speak. I held up my hand. Let me finish. What you don't know is that I dropped out of college to save this family. When Mom had cancer, when the restaurant was failing, I left school. I worked 3 jobs to pay medical bills. I gave up my education so Emma could finish hers. I sacrificed my future for this family. I pulled out my phone, opened the files Amanda had given me, and then Emma asked me to help her with legal research. I did it as a favor. She told her firm she'd done the research herself. She got praised for it. It was part of why she got the position she wanted. I held up my phone. I have the proof right here. Emails, timestamps, everything. I started passing the phone around. People looked at the evidence, then at Emma. Her face was bright red now, her new husband staring at her in shock. I rebuilt my life without any of you, I said. I moved to New York. I got hired by BuzzFeed. I won a National Journalism Award. I'm a senior staff writer now, making $85,000 a year. I did all of that alone, with no help from this family. I looked at each of them, my mother, my father, Emma, everyone. I came here tonight to give you one last chance to apologize, to acknowledge what happened, to show me you understood how much you hurt me. My voice was steady, but tears were streaming down my face now. But all you've done is pretend. You're not proud of me. You're embarrassed that you were wrong about me. You don't want a relationship. You want the appearance of one. The silence was absolute. My mother had tears running down her face. My father looked stricken. Emma couldn't meet my eyes. I forgive you, I said quietly, because holding on to anger only hurts me. But I'm done. I'm done pretending we're a family. You made your choice at Emma's graduation party 2 years ago. I'm making mine now. I set the microphone down and turned to walk away. Behind me, chaos erupted. My mother was calling my name. Guests were talking all at once. I heard Emma's new husband demanding explanations. My mother caught up with me at the exit. Rachel, please don't go. We can fix this. I turned to face her. Mom, I love you, but I deserve better than this. I always deserve better. We're sorry, she said, crying openly now. We're so sorry. Please don't leave. I shook my head gently. I already left 2 years ago. You just didn't notice. I walked to my car and drove away. This time I wasn't running away hurt. I was walking away healed. The drive back to New York felt different than any drive I'd ever taken. My hands were steady on the wheel. My heart, though heavy, felt lighter somehow. I'd said what needed to be said. I'd drawn the boundary that needed to be drawn. My phone buzzed constantly in the passenger seat, but I didn't look at it until I was safely parked outside my Queens apartment 3 hours later. 23 missed calls, 47 text messages. I scrolled through them briefly. From Mom. Please call me. We need to talk. From Dad. You embarrassed this family tonight. What you did was unacceptable. From Emma. You had no right to bring up that research stuff. You're making me look bad at work. Even in crisis, even after being exposed, she was only worried about herself. There was one message that surprised me, though. From Emma's new husband, Michael. I didn't know about the research. I didn't know about a lot of things. I'm sorry for what they did to you. You didn't deserve that. I didn't respond to any of them. I went inside, changed into comfortable clothes, and ordered takeout. Then I called Maya. How did it go? She asked immediately. I told them everything, in front of everyone, and I left. There was a pause. How do you feel? I thought about it. Free. The next few weeks were quiet. My family stopped calling after the first few days. I wondered if they'd finally accepted my decision, or if they were simply regrouping. Either way, the silence was a relief. Work became my focus and my sanctuary. The Vox series was performing beyond projections, and other publications were reaching out for similar investigations. David kept assigning me bigger stories, trusting me with more responsibility. In September, I met Alex at a journalism conference in D.C. He was a photographer documenting economic inequality across America. We started talking about visual storytelling, and 3 hours later realized the conference was ending. He asked for my number. I gave it to him. Our first date was coffee that turned into dinner, that turned into walking around the city until midnight, talking about everything and nothing. He was thoughtful, genuinely interested in my work, and when I told him carefully about my family situation, he didn't try to fix it or minimize it. He just listened. That took courage, he said simply. Standing up for yourself like that. It was exactly what I needed to hear. Fall passed in a blur of good things. My relationship with Alex deepened. My friendships at work grew stronger. Maya and I started a tradition of Sunday brunch. James became more than a mentor. He became a real friend. Someone I could call when I was stuck on a story. Someone who'd tell me the truth even when it was hard to hear. In November, David called me into his office. "Sit down, Rachel." My heart jumped. I'd learned these conversations could go either way. He smiled. "I'm promoting you again. Investigative correspondent. Your salary is now $95,000. You've earned it 10 times over." I was 26 years old and making more money than I'd ever imagined possible. More than Emma, I realized with a small private satisfaction. One evening in early December, I came home to find a thick envelope in my mailbox. The return address was my parents' house in Boston. My first instinct was to throw it away unopened, but something made me bring it inside. I sat on my couch for 10 minutes just looking at the envelope. Finally, I opened it. Inside was a letter, 6 pages long, handwritten on my mother's stationery. "Dear Rachel," it began. "I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if I have the right to ask you to, but I need to try to explain, and more importantly, I need to apologize." I kept reading. She wrote about how she'd been thinking constantly since the wedding, about my speech, about my accusations, about everything I'd said. She wrote that she'd gone back through old photos and medical records, reconstructing those years when I'd dropped out of school, and she'd been horrified to realize how much I'd sacrificed, and how little they'd acknowledged it. "You were 19 years old," she wrote. "You should have been studying, dating, figuring out your life. Instead, you were working 3 jobs to save our family, and we let you. We took your sacrifice for granted, and then we punished you for the consequences of that sacrifice." She wrote about Emma's graduation party, about hearing my father's words and laughing along with everyone else without thinking about what she was doing. I was so proud of Emma that night. She'd worked hard for her degree, but you'd worked hard too, in ways we'd never recognized. And instead of celebrating you both, I participated in humiliating you. I laughed at my own daughter. I will regret that for the rest of my life. She wrote about the months of silence, about how they'd convinced themselves I was overreacting, being dramatic, throwing a tantrum. We told ourselves you'd come back when you calmed down. We told ourselves it wasn't that serious. We were wrong. It was serious. What your father said was cruel. What we did by laughing was crueler. And what we've done since, trying to pretend it never happened, was worst of all. The letter continued for 6 pages. A real apology, taking responsibility. No excuses, no deflection, just truth. "I don't expect you to forgive us," she concluded. "I don't expect you to have a relationship with us again. You've built a good life, and you deserve to protect it from people who hurt you, even if those people are your family. But I needed you to know that I see now what we did. I understand now what we lost, and I am deeply, truly sorry." I sat on my couch and cried. Not sad tears exactly. Something more complicated. Grief for what could have been. Relief that she finally understood. Gratitude that she'd written the letter. And still, beneath it all, anger that it had taken this long. I didn't respond right away. I needed time to process. But I kept the letter. A week later, another envelope arrived. This one from Emma. Shorter, only 2 pages, but similar in tone. "Rachel, I've been doing a lot of thinking since the wedding. Actually, since long before that, but I wasn't honest with myself. Amanda came forward after you exposed the research theft. She told the partners everything. There was an investigation. I was formally reprimanded, and I came very close to being fired. She wrote about being jealous, about always feeling like she had to compete for our parents' attention. I was jealous of your creativity, your talent, your ability to make things from nothing. When you dropped out to help Mom, part of me was relieved because it meant I'd always be the successful one by default. She apologized for stealing my work, for mocking me at her graduation party, for spreading rumors about my career. I'm ashamed of who I was. I'm trying to be better, but I know that doesn't undo the damage. I'm sorry. I read her letter twice. It felt genuine, but I still wasn't ready to respond. I showed both letters to Alex one evening over dinner at my apartment. He read them carefully, then looked at me. What do you want to do? I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to believe they've changed. Part of me thinks it's too late. Maybe it's both, Alex said gently. Maybe they have changed. And maybe it is too late for things to go back to how they were. But that doesn't mean there's no path forward at all. Just a different one. I thought about his words for days. Finally, I wrote back to my mother. Not a long letter, just 1 page. Mom, thank you for your letter. Thank you for finally being honest about what happened. I appreciate that more than you know. I'm not ready for a relationship yet. I might not be ready for a long time, maybe years. But I appreciate your apology, and I'm open to the possibility of rebuilding something new eventually. It can't be what it was before. It has to be different, built on honesty and respect. I need time. I need space. But I'm not closing the door completely. I hope you understand. Rachel. I sent it. Then I tried to move forward with my life. Winter came. My mother sent occasional emails. Never pushy, just small updates about her life. Dad had started therapy. Emma was working on herself. They missed me but respected my boundaries. I didn't respond to most of them, but I read every one. Emma's letter I left unanswered. I wasn't ready for that yet. Work continued to flourish. In March, I was sitting in my office reviewing notes for a new investigation when David knocked on my door. Got a minute? Always. He sat down, looking almost nervous. The executives want to see you. Conference room now. My stomach dropped. Is something wrong? Just go, he said. But he was smiling. I walked to the conference room on shaky legs. The 3 executives who ran BuzzFeed's news division were sitting at the table. They stood when I entered. Rachel, the editor-in-chief said warmly. Please, sit down. I sat. We've been watching your work very closely, she continued. Your investigations have brought us 5 major exclusive stories this year. You've mentored junior reporters brilliantly. You've represented this publication at industry events with professionalism and insight. Simply put, you've become invaluable to us. She slid a folder across the table. We'd like to offer you the position of senior investigative correspondent. It comes with a salary of $110,000, profit sharing, and your own team of junior reporters. You'd be the youngest person to hold this title in our company's history. I couldn't breathe. Senior investigative correspondent at 26 years old. We need an answer by end of week, she said. But I hope you'll say yes. I found my voice. Yes. I absolutely say yes. They smiled, stood, shook my hand. Welcome to leadership, Rachel. That night, I celebrated with my chosen family. Alex, Maya, James, David. We went to a restaurant in Manhattan, drank too much wine, laughed until we cried. These people who'd seen me at my worst and helped me become my best, who'd believed in me when my own family couldn't. This was my family now, and that was more than okay. 1 year after walking out of Emma's wedding, I was a completely different person living a completely different life. Not different in the ways that showed on the surface, though there were plenty of those. Different in the ways that mattered. I'd learned to value myself. I'd learned that love without respect isn't really love at all. I'd learned that walking away from toxicity isn't giving up. It's choosing yourself. My apartment in Queens had transformed into an actual home. Alex had moved in 6 months earlier, and suddenly the space that had always felt temporary became permanent. His photographs hung on the walls next to my framed articles, our books mixed on the shelves. We had routines, inside jokes, a life together that felt solid and real. The relationship with my family had evolved slowly. We weren't close, not the way some families were, but we'd found a rhythm that worked. Occasional emails, careful boundaries that everyone respected. My mother had stopped trying to rewrite history. My father had stopped offering unsolicited advice. Emma had stopped taking credit for things that weren't hers. They'd done the work. Slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely. And I'd done my own work too, learning to hold space for both the hurt they'd caused and the effort they were making now. 3 years after my father called me a walking failure, I was running my own investigative team at one of the most respected digital publications in America. I had a beautiful home with someone I loved. I had genuine friendships. I had a family I'd built by choice, and I had peace. That peace was worth every difficult moment of the journey to get here. If you're listening to this story and you see yourself in my experience, I want you to know something. You deserve better. If your family treats you with disrespect, dismisses your worth, mocks your struggles, you deserve better. It's not your responsibility to fix people who don't want to be fixed. It's not your job to accept cruelty in the name of family loyalty. Walking away is hard. It might be the hardest thing you ever do. But staying in situations that diminish you is harder in the long run. It costs you your self-respect, your confidence, your sense of possibility. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to demand respect. You are allowed to build boundaries. And you are allowed to walk away from people who cannot or will not value you, even if those people are family. Success isn't about revenge. It's not about making them sorry or proving them wrong. Success is building a life that makes you happy, a life surrounded by people who see your value from day one. 3 years ago, I walked out of a graduation party where my family humiliated me. Today, I'm leading my own team at a major news organization. I have a beautiful home with someone I love. I have genuine friendships. I have a family I've built by choice. And I have peace. Your worth is not up for debate. It never was. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from family or close relationships to protect yourself? How did you find the courage to choose yourself? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button. It helps more people find these stories when they need them most. And if you want to hear more real stories about overcoming family challenges, betrayal, and finding your own strength, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to choose themselves, that walking away isn't giving up, and that the best revenge is building a life you're genuinely proud of. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community where we support each other through the hardest moments. I hope my experience gave you something valuable, whether that's validation, hope, courage, or just the knowledge that you're not alone. Take care of yourselves. You deserve good things. You really do. You